everybody, this is Bryan Hogue. Welcome to Chiller Night Live. We're from 8 p.m. Eastern Time until 9 o'clock. We'll be sitting here. We'll do some chiller chatting about all things horror, science fiction, paranormal. Normally you pick the topic, we'll make a show out of it. However, tonight, I figured we'd just be on an ongoing roll here. 2 weeks ago, we covered werewolves. Last week it was Frankenstein's monster. I figured tonight it's only fitting that we do Dracula. So, oh wow, look at this, right out the gate. Renee says, welcome and salute you horror sci-fi fans the day after President's holiday. It's now time for our beloved and awesome Chiller Night Theater host, Mr. Bryan Hogue, a.k.a. Jack Shadow, escape route creator. Oh, thank you, Renee. Ah, very much appreciated. Stephanie says, hey, y'all. Hey, Stephanie. Renee says, I made it first. Yes, you did. You got it. Woohoo. She says, all right. No ping. All right. She says there was no ping. Okay. I remember last week you were saying something about that. Or somebody was. I didn't understand what that was, but I'm glad whatever that was, we're not seeing it this week. I wasn't seeing anything on my end. Dee says, hello, everyone. Hey, Dee, thanks for joining us. Renee says, no notification. All right. No notification is good news, I guess, I think. I'd like to think so. I didn't know what that was to begin with. But, so, hey, all right. Now, I will wait here for a few moments for our, for John to come on. But before he comes on, Renee says, I had to go to your channel directly to get here. Oh, that's what you're talking about. That. I see. Wonder what's up with that. And you are subscribed and hit the notification bell. I don't know what's up with that, but, Anybody else having that issue? Now I'm kind of curious. John Wayne says, hello, everyone. Hey, John Wayne, SBC, thanks for joining us. Daniel says, hello, Brian. Hey, Daniel, thanks for joining us. Al says, hi, everyone. It's Drac Night. It sure is. All right. Renee says, I just got the notification, alerted pings just now. Oh, wow. That's a little late, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know what's causing that. I don't know. Huh. Well, hopefully no one else is having any issues there with that. Adam says, question, Brian, your thought on the 1994 film, The Shadow. I remember seeing that in the theater. The one who was starring Billy, oh wait a minute. Oh, The Shadow. I was thinking of the Phantom when you said that with Billy Zane. Oh, The Shadow with, was it Alec Baldwin? Was it Alec Baldwin who played him? I don't remember it that well. I did see it. I saw it in the theater. But honestly, I don't remember it all that well. So if I don't have that great of memory of it, I don't know that it really stood out to me. But I will, and that's probably, that might not be a fair review of it. I can't even call it a review, a memory, a recollection of it, because it might have been a good movie, but I just didn't forget. Or didn't remember. But I remember, though, at that time, there was like, it actually started right around 89. When Batman came out, they thought, comic book movies. You know, a bunch of people sitting around in an office somewhere in Hollywood thinking, that's what we need, more comic book movies. Now, those have proven to be successful, but at the time they had Batman. Then they did, they brought up the comic strips with Dick Tracy, Warren Beatty. The Shadow, the Phantom. All those. I'm surprised they didn't do although I was going to say a remake of the Lone Ranger at that time, but they just did one 8 years earlier with The Legend of the Lone Ranger, 1981. But anyways, I don't know. What did you think of it since you asked the question? Because I just don't remember it all that well. Okay, Daniel, you try to get me. Gemma is watching too. All right. well, Gemma, I got your name right this week. I know I did. I know I did. All right, so I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for joining us. Glad to have you aboard. Dee says, just make sure you have the notification bell set to all. Oh, okay. I see. I wonder if it is. I'll have to check that now that I know to look for it. Renee says, hello, Stephanie. How's the book world community going? Yes. With your book club. You guys ever read any horror movie or horror novels? I might have asked you that already. I can't imagine I haven't. Roger says, good evening. Hey, good evening, Roger. John. Hey, there's John. There's a birthday boy. All right. It's another happy birthday to you, John. Happy birthday. It's another Tuesday night, and it's time again for Chiller Night Live. This is Crozak the Grand, and now here's our host, Bryan Hogue. Well, thank you, John. And everybody, it is John's birthday today. So, again, happy birthday, and thank you for choosing us to, at least partially celebrate your birthday with. So, I hope you had a very good birthday today, and it's not over yet. So, Renee says, The Shadow was a good movie when I saw it in the movie theaters, but I don't remember the intricate details. Yeah, I have just a very vague, I remember there was a movie called The Shadow, and I do remember I went and saw it, and I liked the idea. I did like the idea that they were making the movie The Shadow, because I thought that was a neat character back when I was a little kid. I didn't do a lot of, I wasn't an avid Shadow fan, but I did like that character. I just had this, I didn't know that much about him, but I thought he was cool, because I seen some of the cartoon, or the comics. Daniel says, I missed the haunt. I can't wait for your haunt to open up again this year. Oh, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this this year, because we have time. We have a nice amount of time I'm changing out a very big segment. The whole last segment of the haunted house is getting changed, revamped. So I think you're going to like it. Renee says, Billy Zane Phantom sucked. Yeah, it wasn't all that stellar, was it? But again, I was just happy to see. I was happy to see that they were actually putting these characters. They're bringing some attention to them, So Craig says hi. Hey, Craig, thanks for joining us. It's been a little while. I haven't seen you here in a little bit. So I'm glad you're joining us. Rennie says, Phantom cartoon is better. Defenders of the Earth cartoon. Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool there, where they had the Phantom, they had the magician guy. I can't think of his name. Flash Gordon. Wasn't Flash Gordon part of that? Yeah, and the Phantom. Adam says, oh, it's a great flick, Brian. I do recommend. Great campy noir 40s comic fun. Okay. Yeah, they had that, and they had with the Rocketeer and all these old heroes, like comic book heroes and serials. The stuff that they had done back, 30s, 40s, kind of going into the 50s. These old heroes, they were reviving them in the movie screen. So it was kind of cool that they were doing that. John says, Dick Tracy was probably the best comic book adaptation of them all, and Alec Baldwin was Lamont Cranston, a.k.a. The Shadow. I do remember that. Stephanie says, good, we talked about the book called Shiver. Oh, Stephanie in her book club, the book called Shiver. Now, I'm not familiar with that book, so is it a good book? Did you read it? Let's see. Renee says, so if I watch Shadow now, it would probably suck. Oh, well, maybe you don't want to watch it, Renee. I don't know. Renee says, Alec Baldwin was in a suit, hat, and trench coat. Yeah, I do remember that. John Wayne says, I remember the film wasn't bad. I have the VHS, but it didn't do well at the box office. Yeah, I don't know. I I just didn't know if a lot of people knew of the character or were excited to go see that character. Anymore, I almost think that it's kind of, I don't know anymore. It's almost better to do a streaming series. You can get a lot more of a storyline drawn out. Some of those series are pretty good if they don't ruin them. Renee says, Shadow's my dad's thing back in the old black and white era. Yes. Dee says, happy birthday, John. Pat Savan, hey Patty, thanks for joining us. I remember and loved the original books. I can't remember the author's name offhand, but he was a former magician. Oh, really? The author's name, or the author was, or the Shadow before he became the Shadow? What was he? I remember one of the comics where the Shadow was standing in front of the mirror and the killer was going to get him, and he had rushed to jump on the Shadow, and the Shadow, you see the guy falling out the window because the Shadow had and he was falling through broken glass, I think. I'm trying to remember this as a very little kid reading this, but it impacted me that moment, like, wow, how clever. He had moved the mirror in front of the window, and he was standing back, and it was just, that old, you get the idea that it was that old gangster period of time back in like the 30s and 40s and that. Daniel says, going to be adding more rooms? Yes. But also rearranging some of the space and just doing a lot of modification toward the back, toward where you were located. I think it's going to be really cool. Patty says, magician in comic was Mandrake. Oh, Mandrake the magician. Okay. Gotcha. Renee says, loved Rocketeer. John says, The Rocketeer was a good movie based on the graphic novels made by Dave Stevens. Renee says, Radar Men from the Moon, Commander Cody. Yeah. Stephanie says, yep, I read the book. It's a murder mystery on a skiing resort. Oh, well, that sounds kind of cool. Al says, The Shadow is okay. Saw it on TV. Renee says, happy birthday to John. Wow, the John Soto, or Saudo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's known as John or Crozak the Grand. Patty says, the makeup for Lamont Alter Ego was based on Billy Baldwin. The author of the Shadow books was a former magician. Oh, I see. Speaking of the time period of the 30s, our topic here tonight, Dracula, and keep going with this stuff because this is really cool too. But in the meantime, Darkman, Liam Neeson. I remember seeing that, Renee. I remember seeing that in the theater. John Wayne says, unfortunately, it's not my birthday. My birthday is September 13th. Yes. I think you meant, well, it's the other John, our other John here tonight with us. Crozak the Grand. Yes. But Bela Lugosi, Dracula. You can see him back here too in my, remember this last week I put up the Crestwood House. I was trying to remember the name of, there's an old library scan. Is that? I wonder if they have the old library card thing in the back. Ah, look at that. They do. I forgot. I haven't opened this book for years. This was checked out. The very first checkout, at least with this card. Remember they used to they put a new card in there after the other one got filled. Was January 30th of 1989. Interesting. And the last one was, I can't make it out, March 17th of 93. So, all right, had a decent little run. But, yeah, I saw this on eBay. I had to get it. Can you guys see that? If I put that there? Yeah, all right. I want to cover up Jack Shadow, huh, Patty? Or Renee says, or whoever's birthday it is. Patty says, doesn't matter. Happy birthday, everyone. Yes, anybody else who, other than John who had a birthday today, we'll want to wish them a happy birthday as well. So, yeah. Well, John, I hope that you're doing something fun for your birthday. I mean, other than, of course, spending that time having a good time here, fun with us. Renee said, "Oh, nice Bela Lugosi poster." Yeah, well, actually, I just picked that up out of off the internet today because I knew the topic today. I threw out the topic as Dracula, so I had to put a picture of Bela, and of course, there's Christopher Lee's Dracula. There's all kinds of Draculas. So we'll start out with well, we got the videos here. The old VHS, Son of Dracula. Of course, obviously, when you think of Dracula, the one actor who immediately springs to the forefront of your mind is, of course, Lon Chaney Jr. in Son of Dracula. So, there he is. Hey, speaking of Lon Chaney Jr., he's the only actor who actually played all of the classic Universal monsters, with the exception of the Gill Man from The Creature from Black Lagoon. But he played the Wolf Man, he played the Mummy, he played Frankenstein's monster, and he played Dracula. It says Son of Dracula, but it's supposed to be Dracula. He plays Count Alucard in that movie. Speaking of Son of Dracula, we have Dracula's Daughter. That was an immediate sequel to the classic 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi. This movie picks up right immediately after with Edward Van Sloan in the, after he just got done driving a stake through Dracula's heart. This one picks up that quick. Different movie. And then House of Dracula with John Carradine, who played Dracula a couple times. Don't think he did great, but he did do it. Oh, Patty says, I remember those cards. I used to be a librarian. Ah, cool. That's pretty neat. Bonin says, hey, hello, Chiller Night crew, and Brian just got here. It's the end of the first period, and the Penguins are up 1-0 over the New York Islanders. All right, go Penguins. Brian Ivers said, made it. All right. Thanks for joining us, Brian. John Wayne says, so which one was the best and which was the worst Dracula film? Well, I'm going to say, the original Dracula is always near and dear to my heart. I'm going to, even though it's not the best, in my opinion, it's not the best Dracula movie, I'm probably still going to say it's the best Dracula movie. I don't know. It's kind of neat to see the Hammer, the Hammer's first Dracula movie with Christopher Lee in 1958. And that's kind of the truest in me coming out and saying that. But I got to admit though, whenever, when it's late at night and the mood just strikes, to put this one on, I do. However, I don't like the whole thing, but I do like enough of the 1992 with Gary Oldman, that Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. So which was the best and which was the worst Dracula film? The worst Dracula film? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good question. Renee says, I don't see the Bob Lazar sport model UFO flying by. Really, hasn't it been by yet? I've been looking. If you can see my screen, I've got the chats here, and I've got mine over here. So every once in a while, when that UFO does pass by, I get to see it enough to duck my head. Um, do I not have that one on? Actually, I have a few backgrounds that I play on loop, so I must not. Maybe I don't have that one on tonight. Um, Stephanie says I like both Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee as Dracula. Hey, Bonnie says, hey Duke, how you doing, Pilgrim? How you doing, Pilgrim? Patty says Dracul means dragon. Dracula means son of the dragon. Ooh, it's pretty creepy, isn't it? Renee says Christopher Lee looks satanic like the devil. Yeah, he had a very, it's funny because like that picture right there, and there's also one of Bella, and I don't know, I don't recall offhand if it was actually a still from the movie, but there's one where it might have just been a promotional still, where he's got his hand on the wall and he's like, looking around the corner of a wall or a doorway or something, and he's got that big this demonic scowl on his face. That actually is it's a scary looking picture, like I think so. But yeah, but just this look here, Christopher Lee throughout the movie, most of the movie, he looks like a very distinguished gentleman of Castle Dracula. A deep voice. But then when he gets into vampire crazy mode, his eyes get all bloody and he has fangs, where of course we know Bella actually you didn't even see fangs with Bela Lugosi. Renee says Sith Lord Count Dooku, yes. Grand Moff Tarkin. Yes, Renee. Cool characters. Opponent says, so Bruce Lee called the dragon, by the way, would be the Dracul, eh? John says, Jack Palance, John Carradine, Leslie Nielsen, George Hamilton also got the honor of being Dracula. Yeah! Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Jason says, Brian, glad to join you today. Hey, Jason, thanks for joining us. I'm home with a broken shoulder. Oh, no! What the heck? But very happy to join you this evening. Your classic monster movie knowledge is supreme. Ah, thank you, Jason. Oh, my gosh. Well, I hope you have a speedy recovery with your shoulder. Ah, broken shoulder. Oh, that would be a pain. Patty says, what do you think of Frank Langella's or Cappola's Dracula films? I liked both of those. I didn't think the Frank Langella one was like, I didn't think it was great, but I didn't mind it either. I thought it was okay. I'd still, it's well worth watching if you haven't seen it. It's from if you're not certain of which one that is. It was a Universal movie, I believe, and it was back in 1978, I think it was. But Frank Langella played Count Dracula. If you see any of the pictures, the posters, kind of like they got that 70s the hair. But yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't a bad movie. I like the Gary Oldman one better. And I do think that they did a neat job trying to recreate more of the novel, where you see him as the old, decrepit, kind of like, well, Nosferatu. We see Nosferatu at the beginning of the movie, very, very old and rat-like, and with the Dracula, however, in the Gary Oldman. Here's another one of. I have a few things back here. There's one of Christopher Lee, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and here's my Bela Lugosi DVD collection. That's got Dracula's Daughter, Son of Dracula, Dracula, of course, and House of Dracula, and the Spanish version of Dracula, which they filmed at the same time on the Universal set when they were filming Bela Lugosi's Dracula. They kept all the sets, everything, and they filmed a Spanish version so that they could, save a lot of money. They didn't have to recreate the cassettes and equipment. They had everything there. So they would film one, I think, during like the day and the other in the evening. I could be wrong on that, but I don't know if I'm remembering that right. But yeah, libraries are still in existence, Renee says. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Although I haven't been to a library in a long time, but yes, they are. Renee says Lost Boys. That was a good one. I did like the Lost Boys. The Blood Wrestling. Now I'm not sure what that one was. Jason says Hammer Horror is the best. There we go. Elvira, Renee says yes. Classic host Elvira. Pat Savan says, oh, don't forget George Hamilton and Mel Brooks Dracula versions. Yeah, yep, those were mentioned, yeah. Brian says, John Carradine didn't play a great Dracula. Didn't he play Dracula in Billy the Kid versus Dracula? Yeah, well, he's also, of course, in House of Dracula. You can see him there on the cover. And he was also in House of Frankenstein, which actually came first. House of Frankenstein, then House of Dracula. Yeah. John Carey. Vampirilla. Renee says, Al says, Bella was the best Dracula, but Lee comes close. I agree with that. I mean, that's the way I see it. I have that just nostalgic, near and dear place in my heart for Bella. Renee says, rad backgrounds. Oh, you like those? I risk my health, my life and health every week. Find folks sitting out here in the middle of Jack Shadow's dark domain, far from his castle above me. But, I mean, at any given time, I could be attacked by werewolves or zombies. But I do it for you guys. For you guys. So, it's pretty nice of me. Let's see. John Wayne says, I remember having a VHS somewhere with a film called Count Dracula Bites Now in Upper Bavaria. An adult comedy movie with Count Dracula. It was so funny. Yay. The old VHS, huh? Let's see. Skip ahead here. Hellboy, The Golden Army. That was a cool movie. I thought that was kind of neat. Abundance says, that's a hard question. Lugosi was the prototype Dracula, but Christopher Lee really did make that role his own. I'd have to give it to Lee because he played the role more and gave great performances. Yeah. I mean, like I said, when I was little, well, you know, like I had some of the things I was going to talk about tonight. I was going to bring up like the, like the collectible stuff, like the Aurora model kit. I had this one. It's not a picture of mine. I just got this off the internet. But I remember this. I had I didn't have. My cousin had the Castle Dracula, the Caliform set. I remember seeing that at his house. The Bendhams, like that. Remember last week I showed the Frankenstein one. Wow, I had the Dracula one. I remember it had a little cloth cape to it. But I always had that, I don't know, I just always thought of the Bela Lugosi Dracula. Although, I mean, you're right in that Christopher Lee gave it more. He did. And he played Dracula more, of course. But those are the ones that I probably saw more of with Christopher Lee on Chiller Theater on Saturday nights growing up. You know, the Hammer. So, Renee says Grandpa Munster. Eddie Munster. Yeah, that's right. He was a little, was he a werewolf? He looked like a little vampire, though. The little, I don't know, vampire hairdo look. Al says, anyone see the 1971 movie Dracula versus Frankenstein? God, it's so bad. I'm not sure because there's a couple by that name. Because we did that. We did one of those back when it was Sleepy Hollow Theater. Jack Shadow had hosted one of those by that name. But I do know that there was a few. What's this? Oh, yeah, I remember having this guy, too. The Super Monsters world famous, is that what it is? Official world famous Super Monsters Count Dracula. I remember having this guy when I was a little kid. And they were just, forget the company that did that. I could probably enlarge that and read it, but it wasn't like well made like the Mego figures, you know, when I was a kid. These ones were, I just loved monsters. I loved monsters as a kid, so I had these guys, and they were just so cheaply made. I remember that, but I had to have them. So mom and dad got me that. Yeah. Um, let's see. Let's see. And he says, "Oh no, no, broken shoulder, good, speedy recovery." Oh, the Jason, yeah, yeah. But it says Dracula is my favorite ghoul, but hands down my favorite monster is the king of the monsters, Godzilla. Nothing else compares. Well, maybe next week we'll do Godzilla. We'll cover Godzilla. I remember having the Godzilla, or I didn't have it, but my little brother had it. The Godzilla Shogun Warrior. Remember when they were making the Shogun Warriors? Those are like this tall when you were a kid. I thought it was a big toy, you know. It's all these Dragoon, Raideen, Mazinga, Gayaka. I don't know. I don't know if I'm remembering the names right, but they had a Godzilla. Yeah, a little thing where his flame tongue, and he had a flying fist that could shoot across the room that far. And I don't know what in the world made them think, well, let's give him a flying fist. You know, but yeah, we can do Godzilla next week. John Wayne says, I just spilled hot tea all over my carpet. Good thing I drink it without sugar. Oh, yeah. Patty says, did anyone else see Eddie Murphy's vampire movies? I have to say, I haven't seen those. I haven't seen them. I know which ones you're talking about, though. Renee says, I've been binge watching Far Out Space Nuts on Tubi. Oh, yeah. The NASA Commissary Food Service put in the breakfast, but instead of installing lunch, Gilligan pressed launch. Yeah. I remember, yeah, the opening to that. Jason says, I'm so happy you do this chat every week. Thank you for this. Thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for joining me and each other every week. This is kind of fun. John Wayne says, I often go to the library. I'm too frugal to buy a book to just read it once. Yeah, I can see that. Renee says, didn't John Carpenter have a vampire movie called Dracula 2000 or something like that? He might have done Dracula 2000. I don't know. There was a movie called Dracula 2000, but there was also one called Vampires that John Carpenter made. And James Woods was in it as the leader of the vampire killer group, if I'm remembering that right. Yeah, Renee says, Vampires, John Carpenter. Interview with the Vampire, Renee says. Dracula. Oh, Neato Dracula Bendy's, yeah, back in the early 70s. I love that stuff. I grew up on monsters and superheroes. And then later on in my childhood, Star Wars. Did you change your name to that? Are you a fan of the Duke? I'm guessing you are because you had to change that to be your icon. For John Wayne, yeah. Yeah, SBC. He explained it one time, what about 3-4 weeks ago when it changed, and I don't know if he meant to do that or not. John Wayne says, was that the sci-fi Dracula movie that takes place in a spaceship? Oh, I don't know. I hadn't seen it. It was at the Dracula 2001. Pittsburgh Gold Order says, hey, Brian, this is Dracula Night. I'm just tuning in. Heck yeah, it is. Yeah, welcome aboard. Yeah, we're just talking about Dracula. And we've so far, of course, we put up the big baddies there. Baddies or batties. Bela Lugosi, of course, Christopher Lee. Those are the two that I highlighted. And I just threw up, a few of the nostalgic collectibles from when I was a kid. The Bendhams, I had those. Califorms. I had this guy, the little action figure. I had this guy, the Aurora model kit. So, yeah, that stuff was fun. Gojira, cool. Patty says, yes, we'll do him. We'll do Godzilla next week. I had somebody share this tonight. Share the Brian Seach, who was actually a guest on Chiller Chat several times. He and his wife Terry, but he is a huge Godzilla fan. Godzilla, Star Trek. So I mean, he says to tag him to when we do Godzilla. So we'll do Godzilla next week. It's funny because he just wrote that. I just saw that before the show tonight. So it must just be meant to be. Jason says Shogun Warriors were high quality metal and shooters on them. Yeah, they also I remember having the big plastic ones, but then they made like these little die cast metal ones. I had those too, and the comics. Marvel Comics did. They did Godzilla comics, and they also did Shogun Warrior comics. Let's see here. But it says, oh no, Brian. I didn't mean start something with my Godzilla comment, but yes, I had the Shogun Warrior Godzilla when I was a kid. Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do Godzilla next week. That'll be cool. Pittsburgh Ghoul Order. John Carpenter directed Vampires. Yes. Let's see. If I'm skipping anybody's comment, I'm sorry. I'm seeing that I'm quite a bit behind. I'm just trying to catch up a little bit here. Bunhead. I'm in a van, but I haven't changed it. I opened a second account to upload old John Wayne films years ago, and for some reason the icon and name now appear whenever I use my normal SBC account. Yeah, that's weird. D says Vampire in Brooklyn, Eddie Murphy, 1995. Okay, yeah, I didn't see that one, but I'm aware of the movie, but I haven't seen that one. Stephanie says I've seen Interview with a Vampire, both movie and TV show. I saw the movie back when it first came out, but I haven't seen the TV show. D says, what about The Hunger from 1983? Oh, I'm not familiar with that one. The Hunger. Patty says, yes, David Bowie is a vampire in The Hunger. Okay. That sounds cool. Renee says, there were these vampire zombie gangs in Heavy Metal? Heavy Metal? The movie animation cartoon, which, by the way, is my favorite heavy metal band featuring Black Sabbath's The Mob Rules soundtrack. I remember I just watched Heavy Metal probably within 2 or 3 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it was a couple years ago. Had to see it again. Patty says, has anyone seen The Ultimate Warrior Zombie versus Vampire? No, I haven't. I haven't seen that one. Renee says, the autocorrect is stupidly changing my spellings. What the heck? WTH. Bonus says, I never heard of that happening. That's really amazing that it did it all by itself and it gave you a picture of the Duke. My kid is a computer programmer and he's here and laughing at that story. It is kind of funny. The Pittsburgh Ghoul Order says, I have John Carpenter's Vampire in VHS. I think I'll watch that tonight. Yeah, that's a good one, yeah. James Woods. Very cool. And that kind of, like, that's kind of some of the stuff that, now I'll put in my plug here for Chiller Night Escape Experience by horror-themed escape room store at the Cranberry Mall. Where is it? Ah, that's a kind of just a picture of my store, and then that's a little closer picture. But I want inside, and I have the Zombie Outbreak escape room. I had a group go through the other day, and they just the one part. You know, it's weird because I have people go through it several times. This was this one woman's second time going through it, but I've had one customer go through it 3 times. I change them up a little bit, but I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know if I'd probably wait a couple or at least a year or 2 before I'd go back in. Jack Shadow's House of Terror, that's also in the store around Halloween time, of course, and The Witching Hour. I have not been burning the candle at both ends, getting this one open, but it will be open very soon. It's inevitable. It's not far from being done, so I'm not breaking my back to get that one open, but it is It is coming. The reason I even bring this up is because we're talking about all this neat stuff here. And one of the things, these are not my pictures. I simply got these off of, they're actually from Larry Kirshner's from The Darkness, his gift store he has with his haunted house. But I would like to, this is the type of things we're talking about. I was talking about the Bendhams and the Aurora model kit and the action figures. I'd like to sell stuff like that, you know, more up-to-date stuff. Might be kind of neat to have vintage stuff too in the store. I'd like a gift store with a lot of stuff here. You know, masks I would like to have in there. Just monster collectibles. I think that stuff would be so cool and so fitting to have in my store, along with the other stuff. John Wayne said, I just remembered something. When I was a child, I played a prank on my dentist. I did put a fake vampire teeth in my mouth, and he was pretty scared. It's funny you would say that, because all of us kids, we all had the plastic fangs, and I was going to get a picture of those and put them up there, but I forgot until you had mentioned that. That was one of the things I was going to put on there tonight. Brian says Andy Warhol also made a very interesting Dracula film in 1974. I heard of that one, but I haven't seen it, to be honest with you. I haven't seen it. Jason says, any Blair Witch similarities to The Witching Hour? Maybe. It is a... I don't know how to answer that. It is that very... It's funny you would say, because Ava, you know, when we first started talking about it, she thought... She asked me if it was going to be like... kind of like her character witch on the show, or, you know, almost like the alluring siren type. And I said, no, I actually want this to be the old hag Halloween witch, you know, the old scary, terrifying encounter that you would, you know, if you were to come across something like this in the woods, and it were real, or had that real feeling like the Blair Witch Project. Now you're trapped in this house, you know, and you're finding all this stuff, and you have to get out. And without giving the whole backstory, well, you have to, you know, you have the witching hour. You have to get back before the beginning of the witching hour, or something very wrong will happen. SBC says, you're a brave man pulling a joke like that on a person who's got very sharp objects that they're going to use on you. That's right. That's right. Probably didn't think that one through too far ahead. John Wayne says, that's an interesting thing is, only in chat when you write a comment under the video, the old picture and the old name appear. Jason says, I bet your gift store would be great. You got to have a Michael Myers mask. Yeah. I got to wait for, now I've had an LLC. That's what, Hogue Entertainment LLC. That's what all of my stuff is under. However, that I can't just, that doesn't give me a retail license in the state of Pennsylvania. So I'm waiting. I applied for, submitted the application for that. So I'm just waiting to get that back. I actually thought I would have that by now. So, but that's what I'm waiting for. And then I can open up the store once I get that and then order my items. Tom says, better late than never. Hey, there he is. Tom Paisley has joined us, folks. Tom, thanks for joining us. We're talking about, dun, 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 Dracula. Well, actually, we're talking about quite a bit of things, but the topic for tonight was Dracula. Was. Bunny says, Miss Renee Cruz, I'm a Penguins fan. There's no way I could ever root for the Flyers. My God, they used to beat my Pens all the time. Renee says, I know all the players. Cool. How she's naming some of the players there. Sean Courtier, Joel Farabee. Bonus says, Tom Paisley is here. Hey, hello, Tom. Yes, hello, Tom. And computer problems. Oh, you're having computer problems. Ah, that's not good. Well, at least you're not like Jason. Jason's got a broken shoulder, and so he's got he's got shoulder problems, which are probably a lot more painful than computer problems. Tom, yeah, Tom. Uh, oh, naming more hockey players here. All right, I'm not familiar with them. Let's see. Oh, I did. You know what I didn't do tonight? I did not put a skit. A couple times within the last few weeks, I've had a skit from the shows with Jack Shadow and some of the other characters, maybe over the years. I didn't do that. And Paul, of course, we're missing Paul tonight, and hopefully Paul's doing well. Hopefully, if you're watching this later, Paul, just know that we are thinking of you and hoping that you also have a speedy recovery. Renee says Nosferatu. Yeah. What a creepy looking vampire that was. It's a weird looking portrayal of him here on the cover. But you kind of, get a better look there at that. I try not to hold too much on here because I know that there's a reflection. But that Count Orlok, played by Max Schreck. What a neat looking vampire. Very creepy movie. Missing you, Paul, Stephanie says. Yeah. There's something else I was going to put on here. Oh, one thing I want to mention too. Do I have it on here? Do I have it? Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. I guess not. The Ones Who Live. The Walking Dead spinoff. Now, normally those aren't that great news to me. However, this one does have the return of Rick Grimes. Finally, the show really went downhill once Andrew Lincoln left as Rick Grimes, and it just lost. It wasn't interesting anymore to me. But Ava and I watched it. We endured. Just because that was our Sunday night thing. So it's kind of nice to see it, at least this part of it, come back with Andrew Lincoln and then Michonne. There's Rick and Michonne. Michonne's looking for Rick. So that's starting back up. It's debuting this coming Sunday on February 25th, 9 o'clock Eastern Time on AMC, of course. So I don't know if you guys are interested in that, but to me, I've always I have enjoyed The Walking Dead. The first years of The Walking Dead were the best, in my opinion. Let's see. Renee says Tiki Talkit the Rocket. Okay, more hockey players. Tom says, Brian, do you ever do a send up for hillbillies in a haunted house, 1967? No, I don't. Hillbillies in a haunted house. No, I've never seen that. Hillbillies in a haunted house. Believe it or not, I've never seen it. So, interesting. It's a funny name. Is that a comedy? Is it? It sounds like it would be. Let's see. Patty says, since we were talking about vampires, can you guys settle an argument I had at work today? Does silver harm vampires, and why? Interesting. Does silver harm vampires, and why? I have seen. So there's part of the old thing with the mirror. One of the thing is they, they can't see their reflection. The other is that one theory that I read about the mirrors was that back in the day they were all lined in the back with silver, and they couldn't stand the look of silver. Again, it's like a Google search response, to silver. Other than that, I don't know, because I think the crucifix or the cross could have been made out of any material. I don't know if any movie said it had to be silver, but I know that Peter Cushing in the Hammer movies, he's used actual, like, the wooden stakes to form the cross, and that was effective. So, and then I think in Fright Night they explained that the cross itself was just an image. It was a symbol, but you had to have faith in order for that. If you had faith, then the cross would work. I think regardless of what it was made out of. But I'm curious to know: does anybody else here know of the issue or the question? Know the answer to that Petty asked. Werner Herzog did Nosferatu, Euthanasia, Klaus Kinski. Very good. Cool. There's a lot of movie mentions here. I try Tom most of the time. Let's see, with Klaus Kinski, no euthanasia. Oops. I wasn't sure what you meant there, but I thought, well, maybe that's part of the synopsis description. I don't know. I didn't. Let's see. Oh, Renee says hello and shout outs to Glam Fangs for Chiller Night Theater, Misty Kate for Mystery Science Theater 3000 Live, and Janet Kraft, Creature Features Live. Yes! All right, shout outs to Glam Fangs, Misty Kate, and Janet Kraft. Bunny says, I got Miss Renee Cruz going, didn't I? Oh, about the hockey? Yeah. Patty says, the mirror was because it reflects one's soul, but vampires have no souls. I knew it to be like that as well, but I read one where they actually explained something to do with the backing of the mirror was silver. And that was one I've never heard of, and I've never heard of it before or even since that. But somebody did go and explain something about silver in the mirror, but I think that was just a Google answer. Salem's Lot, they use tongue depressors to form a cross and it works, Jason said. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Tom said it has musical numbers. What? Okay, I missed some of the comments above. So you guys are talking about hockey. I don't want to intrude because I know that you're talking directly to the others. So when I see that's going on, I try not to kind of intrude on your conversations. Scratch my back with a hacksaw, Renee says. Okay, I'm not sure if that's a hockey reference or horror. I would think horror. Let's see, Al says, I think the movie Blade started the silver thing. Oh, is that right? Maybe that's where they got it. Blade. I remember seeing Blade, but I didn't remember that. Or are you talking about a sword? Would that be strong enough for a? I don't know. I don't know my silver. Bonus says, let's see. John says, you have been watching. Oh my gosh, we got like 6 minutes left. John says, you have been watching Chiller Night Live with Bryan Hogue. This is Crozak DeGrand speaking for Mr. Soto. Thanking everyone who's given him a birthday shout. And thank you, Bryan, for the opportunity to introduce your show every week. Until we meet again next week, stay chilled and keep thrilled. Well, John, Crozak DeGrand, thank you very much, not only for your stellar introductions, but for joining us on your birthday. I hope you had a good day, and I hope that continue to have a good birthday evening. So, Patty says, I have to check my vampire encyclopedia when I get home. Gotta leave now, getting a crowd around the register. Okay. All right, Patty. Stay safe all. All right, you too, Patty. Thanks for joining us. That's a Pens reference from your Pens broadcaster. Okay, all right. I see. I even though I would root for the Pens if it was between them and another team, I haven't seen a Pens game. I mean, actually going to one. It's the only one I ever saw. Was the one I went to. That was back in the 90s when I lived in Pittsburgh. So, and it was because some of my friends were going, so they wanted me to come with them. So I went. Renee says, OMG, the show was epic. It flew by. Oh, thank you, Renee. It was very epic tonight. How could it not be with such an epic topic as Dracula, Prince of Darkness? But it says, oops, I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to carry on my own conversation. Brian, the hacksaw comment was a Mike Lange saying. Okay. I didn't know it was a Hall of Famer announcer for the Penguins. Okay. All right. So there you have. We had a pretty good show tonight. Wow, I still got 5 minutes, so that was pretty cool. A lot of stuff. It's hard to. And don't forget. Now next week we'll do Godzilla. So Godzilla will be the topic. There are tons of Godzilla movies. There are a lot of vampire movies. Maybe not specifically Dracula. I mean, although there are a lot, but. Tons of vampire movies. But Godzilla, oh my gosh. And it's pretty cool that they're, still making them. And really cool looking ones too at that. So, Dee says, it's almost 9 o'clock already? Yeah, I know. It's crazy how fast this stuff goes. Hey, while I'm here, I want to look at some of these. Remember these... There's one. I opened it up. It had a little rip in the... No, I didn't do it. Whoever had this book for me. This is so funny. Remember these? Dracula. And then... Does this bring back any memories to any of you? For me, it's... Oh! I had mentioned this picture earlier today. Remember that creepy look of Dracula? That's a neat one. That's probably the scariest that he looks, other than, I think of it, when he swats the mirror, talking about mirrors, when he swatted the mirror out of Van Helsing. Remember Edward Van Sloan played Van Helsing, and some neat pictures there of Nosferatu. We were talking about him in this book. A child's book I have. Oh! Lon Chaney Sr. starred in London After Midnight. But of course that movie was lost. That's a shame. Later remade as Mark of the Vampire. I actually have that VHS. Dracula's Daughter, they reference her, Christopher Lee. You back up, Dracula. Grandpa, Munster. Oh, we got 2 minutes left. I'm going to go through and oh, Blackula. I remember he was brought up here before when we were talking. Blackula. 1972. Oh, how could we forget? The Night Stalker. Remember that? The Night Stalker, the one with the vampire. Oh, I remember watching that show as a kid. Well, I mean, when it was on, not the repeats, but when it was actually on. Oh, and Jack Palance. And he was mentioned earlier as one of the actors. Somebody had mentioned him earlier. Yeah, those were fun books when you were a kid. Bella had no fangs. Jason said, yeah, I know. Yeah. Yep. What's the book? Tom says. Dracula. The Crestwood House publication books that they had. All those monster books. Library police are going to get you. Oh, no. I bought that legally. Off of eBay. Now, I don't know if it was obtained legally. John Wayne says, the theory about the silver was mine. I did some research a few years ago. The emulsion of a camera film also contains silver, which may be the reason why you can't photograph vampires. Oh, cool. Tom says, I had that book. Those were cool. It'd be a neat book to read. Lots of pictures about it. It says, yeah. Oh, when you're a kid, those are perfect. Renee says, vampire wouldn't die in Night Stalker. And then Al says, good night, everyone. Hey, good night, Al. Oh, it is 9 o'clock. It is 9 o'clock. Who mentions about me doing... Bonehead, I think, mentions about me doing a 2-hour one. Maybe we'll do one of those here pretty quick. We'll go until 9, and then we'll take like a minute break, and then we'll do an extra hour one of these nights. Bonehead says, thanks, everyone. I enjoyed it. We'll see you next week for Godzilla Hot Topic Show. And he says, sweet. Tom says, okay, I'll say creepy dreams to you and all. See you next week. All right, Tom. All right. Thank you for joining me and each other here tonight for another night of Chiller Night Live. So have a good night. Have a good Chiller Night, and we'll see you next week.